sending the chat the point that we are discussing about the book that we are going to present here. So the first is, you can tell us about the book or the author, and what is the key takeaway from the book that you get, and the third is what you like and you don't about the book. The fourth is how would you rate the book on the scale is 1 to 5. Okay, so now we only have 3 presenters of the book, perhaps only me, Donald, and so I think can how if it do you want to start first or if you have already a time?
I think second. But
Second.
Edo, your audio is spotty.
Oh,
Is it true, Donald? Is it just me or you think so?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, spotty.
5 minutes ago it was good. Now it becomes spotty.
Okay. Yeah, the network is again I just talk slowly.
But I can still understand you. Fine. No problem itu.
Yes. Harus konsentrasi tinggi to listen to you.
Yeah, I had to dictate him.
I have to talk really slowly. Okay. Okay, now how about Donald? Can you start first because it will be second.
Okay, thank you Edo for the opportunity. Hi everyone. The book that I would like to present today, the title is Nomadland, and it has become a movie. In fact, the movie won an Oscar a while back. But what I read the book, and the book is different from the movie because I watched the movie I think yesterday, and yeah, it's different. And I think the book is better because it is deeper and you have a lot of real stories there. So with the questions, tell us about the book or author. So the book is about a group of people in the US that became nomads. After the recession 2008, many people unfortunately lost their houses, and as a survival strategy, they had to move into vans or cars. And this book focused on that. So that's why the title is Nomad Land. There is the word land because these nomads, sometimes they gather for annual meeting and they have a community of their own. But it's very interesting book because it talks about a subculture, something that is happening in the US at that time and also now, I think. And it is something that often get overlooked, but this book covers this subculture in details. The author is Jessica Bruder, and actually I learned quite a lot from this book, not just about the content of the book itself, but about the process of writing. Because in order to write this book, the author spent 3 years with the nomads. And not only that, but she immersed herself in the lifestyle. So she even bought a van and live in a van for some time so that he could truly understand the topics or the subjects. So it's very interesting book and very well researched book because the author actually lived the lifestyle herself in addition to interviewing many nomads. What is the key takeaway? So there are many things that I learned from this book. One of them is that I'm so grateful now that we can live with roof under a roof. Like now, this is a house, and usually I took it for granted. But after reading this book, I understand that not everyone is lucky like us that we have a house that we can live in, or an apartment that we can live in. Not everyone is lucky like that. So the first thing that I learned is that is gratitude actually, because something that we might take for granted is actually a luxury. In fact, in one part of the book, there is a training. If someone wants to live that kind of lifestyle, the training is like this. You move to the bedroom in your house and you stop using the rest of the house. So that is the first step. So you stop using the rest of the house. The second step, you make a cardboard box and put it in the corner of your room and you live only there. And you stop using the rest of the room. So that is the second step. So imagine that you live only in a box of cardboard in a corner of your room. So that's how it feels like. Another takeaway from me is about resilience. So these people, despite the unfortunate condition, they are resilient, they are resourceful, they find jobs, and they try to make the most of what they have. So that is inspiring. They are resourceful and they help each other. It's hard, but they help each other out and they are resourceful. Another thing that is a takeaway from the book is that we need to have backup plans and also plan for our future. So there are some stories in the book. For example, one of them, the person actually had a good job. He was a product development director in McDonald's. McD is a huge corporation, and he worked in the headquarters, HQ, as the director of product development. Imagine that, director of product development in McD worldwide headquarters. So that is a good job. Right? But because of unfortunate economic condition, he lost the house and had to move to a flat. So this is also a warning for me and maybe for all of us that we need to plan for our future and have backup plans, even if currently we have a good job. Because there are people there with good jobs. Another one is written by the author as jet setting executive. So he went from city to city around the world with jets as an executive. But long story short, he also lost the house and had debts and had to live in a van. So again, we need to be careful and plan. Another takeaway from the book is that the older we get, the narrower the job opportunities for us. So maybe this is the stories from the people in the book. Maybe in Indonesia that still hasn't happened yet, but it could be in our future. Stories in the book. They think that because of their experience, it will be easy for them to find jobs because they have many experience in many jobs. But as it turns out, despite their experience, it's still difficult for them to find job because there is this so-called ageism. So people, the employers do not want to employ older people. So the older someone gets, the more difficult it is for them to find a job. So the takeaway for me, maybe this is not for everyone, but for me is that we need to have our own small business that depends on us and doesn't depend on anybody else, so that nobody can take the job away from us. So that's my personal takeaway. Because if we depend on other people to give us job, then it will become more and more difficult as we get older. Not to mention automation. Automation is not mentioned in the book, AI and so on. But nowadays with automation, it may become even more difficult. So those are some takeaways from the book that I have. What you like and don't. What I like from the book is the deep investigation, as I mentioned before, that the author spent 3 years and she lived like a nomad, actually booked a van, lived in a van, and even took the seasonal jobs that the nomads also took. So she tried to live like that. So this is a book that results from deep investigation. That's what I like. What I don't like about the book, always difficult question from me every month, because I don't really think about what I don't like. So I cannot answer this. How would you rate the book? I would rate it 5 out of 5 because this is a difficult book to write. It took a lot of effort to write this kind of book. Not just something that I write from my head, but something that the author had to spend a lot of time and spend a lot of effort on. So 5 out of 5, and I think it explains why this book is so famous, a bestseller, and eventually even become an Oscar-winning movie. All right, so that's what I want to share about this book. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Now we come to the Q&A session. Maybe any of you have something to ask
I have
Donald? Yeah,
yes,
Pipit?
I have a question. So this area is only for people who are older adults, or is there any people who are younger but somehow stuck in the same situation?
Yes, there are younger people, even 20s. There are people in the 20s also with that kind of lifestyle. In the US, one of the main cause is the student loan. So they had a huge student loan debt and they could not pay it. So even they are still young, some of them had this kind of lifestyle, but not so many, because if they are still young, maybe they can stay with their parents. So the majority are older people above 60, the majority. But there are young people, even the 20s also.
What happened to the pension system, like 401k system that guarantee, our older age time?
Yes, so in the book it is explained that the US actually had a 3 legs social plan for retirement age. The number one is our own savings and investment. Number two is pension from the company. And number three is social security. And it is explained in the book that the number one, the first one, investment and saving. At the time, many of the investment they lost money because of the crisis in 2008. Also, they book houses on mortgage, and the house actually dropped in value in 2008. And that's actually one of the common stories. People believe that the price of houses will always increase, but as it turns out, it could also drop. And because of that, many of them just lost their house and they didn't have enough savings. So that's number one. The second one, the pension plan. Many companies didn't want to have lifetime pension, so they did and do 401k. 401k is more cost effective from the employer's perspective. But then 401k usually is also invested in stock. And when the stock market went down, like in 2008, then they could lose a lot of value from 401k. In addition, many of these people, they live paycheck to paycheck. So they don't have 401k. Just do odd jobs, so cannot build enough. So only the last part stands. Social security, it is something that they don't have in Indonesia, but they have it. So these people, many of them depend on social security, but it is far from enough because they got only about $500 per month, while in the US, usually people live like need something like 5,000, so only about 10% of what is normal for middle class life. So only social security is left, but the amount is far from enough.
Actually, this topic was in the debate motion last year, and a lot of people blamed the Fed for it, for the housing bubble, the
The Fed.
Federal Reserve, yeah, the Federal Reserve for the housing bubble. And another thing they blame, oh, it's explained in the movie The Big Short. You know the movie The Big Short? Yes. So I think, but after watching The Big Short, I was still confused. Like if the explanation was too fast or something, I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't concentrate enough. But when I studied this topic for the debate last year, my conclusion was it was the Fed's fault that did not implement strict enough policies to banks. So that time banks were giving out loan like crazy. They did not even care if people would be able to pay or not. So they encourage people to take a loan. The bigger the house, the more expensive the house is better. They did not care whether people could pay or not, because the bank thinks if the people could not pay, I'll just repossess the house. Easy. Nothing to lose. So they convince a lot of people to take a loan with a huge amount they know they cannot afford. So eventually their houses got repossessed by the bank. And it happened to many people at the same time. So that's how the housing bubble price popped, is because so many people getting their houses repossessed at the same time. So I don't know whether the book mentioned anything that somehow in the neighborhood of blaming the Federal Reserve for it.
No, it doesn't blame the Fed. The book doesn't go in the economic part too much because it's more about the stories of the individuals there. So it is a different kind of book from that. But yeah, I watched Big Short and I read the book also. So another point of view for that is that there were many investors and the interest rate was very low. So it is easy to get loan because it's low. But on the other hand, because the interest rate was very low, many investors want to get higher yield for the investment. And because the options are very limited, they have to expand the option. That's why they extend the mortgage to more and more people, and it becomes the so-called subprime mortgage. So people who are not eligible, actually, they still give the loan anyway because they need to invest this money and to get some yields. So that's one another side of it. Because the investor are desperate for yield, they just find everything that can give them enough return for the investment, including expanding the loan pool to people who actually cannot afford it. Yeah, so that's another side of it. And then they securitize the mortgage and become more exotic financial instruments. And these are labeled or rated rated as triple A investment, something like that, because of financial tricks, and then sold to other banks, and eventually even very big banks like AIG, I think, and some very big banks, they also buy these obligations because of all the financial tricks. So that's interesting, but that's another book and not in this book because this book is about the stories of the individuals.
I have
I have
one
a
last
question.
question. Sorry, Edu. Is
Yes,
that
yes,
okay?
yes.
Because only few of us anyway, right? So
Yeah, it was,
do you
yeah,
do you see, for example, their level of suffering in this situation is on par with the level of suffering in common poor people in Indonesia, or is it any different?
I think they suffer worse compared to the standard poor people in Indonesia, except for people who live in the street. But for most people, even if they are poor, usually they still have a house. They still have access to water and sewage. Actually, one of the most heartbreaking part is the sewage. They don't have toilets, they don't have showers, so they cannot do it in a normal way. So that's maybe the worst part of it, in my opinion. So they use a backup. It's also in the movie because, and even to take shower, one part of the book, so they have to go like 5 miles away to a public shower, something like that. So I think it is worse because here in Indonesia, usually even poor people still have roof above their head and they still have access, except for the very poor maybe. But most people still have that.
Why
I don't know.
can't they choose
Yeah.
a site close to a river or something, just like Indonesians? If no access to toilet, shower, they just live by the river.
I think they have more strict environment regulation, right? You cannot just do everything everywhere. So there are places for everything. They have regulation. You can stay here, stay there. So they have their own annual meeting and also blogs and websites for tips. For example, for shower, a popular way for them to get access to toilets and shower is to buy annual gym membership. So there are some cheap membership to gyms, but they actually do not want to exercise. But because this gym has branches all over the US, they use it as access to toilets everywhere in the US. So that's one way they take care of the situation.
Okay.
My question. So this phenomena of nomad is only prominent in United States, and not in other advanced economy countries like the most of the European Union or the British. So what make it different? So what the situation that is different between the United States and other advanced economy countries? I think this nomad phenomena is only prominent in the US.
Yeah, the book doesn't cover that because it is only in the US. It is not about the global economy. I'm not sure about the situation in other countries. Maybe in other countries, if they become that poor, they just become homeless, so they live on the street. But here, actually, these people, they are very allergic and very much against the word homeless. That's like dirty word for them. They do not want to be called homeless. They will get angry if you call them homeless. Instead, they call themselves houseless. So I think in other countries, actually the same problem also happening there, but in other countries, there is no middle ground. So when you do not have a house, you live on the street. But in the US, there is still a middle ground. If you don't have a house, then there is an alternative that is acceptable for many people. That is, you can live in a car or in a van. You don't need to live on the street right away. So it's just that the US, in my opinion, have a middle ground, while other countries, no. You just fall directly to the street.
Yeah, so basically the nomad issue is the same like the homeless issue, and it should be addressed with the same measures, like by social welfare and safety. Like, so it's not different for the homeless, only because it is in the US they have a middle ground that they do not have to live on the street. And now, how about the nomad people that the become nomad based on their own will? Like nowadays there is thing the so-called digital nomad, right? Yeah, it is the same issues actually.
Yeah. Digital nomads is interesting. It's quite different because the digital nomads, they do it mostly by choice. Well, so they choose to live in foreign countries with lower living expenses and they work digital work so that they can work everywhere and anywhere in the world. But these people, they became nomads because they lose their house, and most of them do not do digital work. So instead, they do physical work, physical labor. And a popular place is Amazon. Amazon had a program and only closed in 2022 after the book already released for 7 years. But for many years, Amazon had a program for these nomads called Camper Force, and it was physical labor. They had to lift up the goods and scan the goods. So the difference with digital nomads is that digital nomads, they do it mostly by their own choice to experience more of the world. So they go to another country with lower living expense and they work digitally. But these nomads, they still stay in the home country in the US, and instead of doing digital work, they do physical work. So it's quite different situation. These are older people mostly. So maybe not the demographic of digital nomads. Digital nomads are usually younger people.
Oh, I see that the problem is still the rising cost of living. So both the digital nomad and the traditional nomad is actually facing the problem of high increasing cost of living. But the difference is that the digital nomad can have option to work remotely while this traditional nomad don't have this. I believe this is also a rising issue in Indonesia as well. We may not see any nomad now here, but since the a lot of the problem is the raising cost of living, so we might see this phenomenon in the near future, I believe.
Yes, that could be. In fact, one of the things that got me interested to read this book is because it could be the future in our country. So what happen in other country usually will happen in our country years later. So it's like the future. Now that we read this, we can prepare before it happens, and also tell our friends about this.
Then, is there any question from all of you? Yes. Can you repeat?
No, I just asked 4 questions earlier.
Oh, then,
But I agree with Edo in a way that because US is a middle ground, I think as well. So if the same situation in other countries, they would have been in the street, right? So it's not that belittling their suffering, but in comparison to other countries, almost not so bad, because they tell themselves they're not homeless, they're actually houseless. So the struggle here is more like a place to stay. But in terms of do they have companionship, things like that? Donald, they are a community, right? So they somehow maybe support each other, or were they depressed, lonely, or how is it?
Yes, they have a community. They call it finally, finally. So they even have annual meeting with tens of thousands of people coming, something like that. So yes, they have community with sessions, with tips about how to do this, how to do that. Yeah, so they have a community.
So not so bad then. They're not lonely at least, right?
Yeah, but because this is nomads, so after they gather for like 2 weeks, the annual
Mm.
gathering, then everyone could go to their own way. They are not together forever.
Oh, okay.
Maybe from Rina, comment or question, our new friend.
I've always thought RV life is like a choice. People who are retired, they want to explore America, or some of them even want to go to Pan America you know, from the tip to the tip. I didn't know that it was because they cannot afford it. I thought it was for, lifestyle. Like in Australia, a lot of, old people, instead of buying a house, they buy double wide, two RVs, two RVs, double wide, and then explore the continent.
Yeah, the author also wrote about that. So when she researched the topic, many of the writings write about the nomad lifestyle as what you just explained, to explore the world and to for adventure. And she wrote that because these reporters only spend one afternoon for the topic, they have the wrong impression. So she spent 3 years, and many of these one afternoon reporter only look at this as if this is a fun thing to do, but they do not discover this is a survival strategy. So there are still some people who do this because of adventure, but the number who do this for survival far exceeds the number who do this for adventure.
Okay.
Okay, I think we need to move to the next book.
I think we can move to the next. Okay. Repeat. You ready?
Okay. I don't know if I look. I'm I'm snugly in my blanket. So this is the book I've just finished reading. It's about Afghanistan. I teach international relations in SIS, and we talk about Afghanistan lately. It's just the chapter is about ongoing civil war, and Afghanistan popped up because it has the longest civil war from 1978 until 2001, right? And after that, there was a brief, not a brief, yeah, brief in Afghanistan history, a brief break in civil war because America administered the area for 10 years. But after that, they left and then Taliban took over again, basically. But the current Taliban had very little resistance as a comparison to the previous decades before. So that's why this is the reason why I read this book, and this is the small version, the short version of the history of Afghanistan. But mostly, this book talk about the history of the conflict more specifically. So, as we know, there are many different history in, uh, in what way, right? So this one is specifically the history about the conflict in Afghanistan. So, witness. This is the book. Yeah, witness to history Afghanistan. And also why I choose this book is because this book used primary source to write the story about the history. Like they took it from the soldiers' notes and then from the journalist's own journalist diary, basically. So it's funny because the books mention what the journalist wrote in newspapers sometimes it's different from what they actually thought about the event. So it's more reliable to. Oh, Edo is gone. Edo, are you there?
Maybe.
Okay. So
Yeah.
uh
I
okay.
can.
It's more reliable to actually check their diary rather than check on what they wrote on newspaper. Especially when the newspaper is government run, right? Supported by the government, or bought by a certain entity. Even foreign powers also known to bribe local news, such as Kabul Times, for example. So that's why they took it from the personal diary of a lot of people. And they also wired the conversation between the Mujahideen and the Prime Minister of Russia. So all of these primary sources is what I really like with the series of Witness to History. Okay. So what the question? Tell us about the. Okay, so that is the book about. What is the key takeaway? Ooh, the key takeaway for me is a lot. First thing is maybe it's tough when we cannot set aside differences and look at the big picture. For example, a lot of civil wars that happen here because number one, they have different ideology, right? So the first civil war that broke in 1978, it was a civil war between those who want to modernize Afghanistan, modernizers versus traditionalists, basically. So modernizers here want to be a secular country, separating the country from the Islamic religion that time, right? They did not want Sharia law to be the law of the land, basically. And then the traditionalists, those who wanted to keep the order as it was, most of them are very fundamental Muslims. Yeah. So this one. Now, it was actually by comparison, I don't know, the book is really biased. I don't know, maybe, yeah. By comparison, the modernists that time were better than the traditionalists because they wanted land reform, all of this, right? So they wanted the equal rights for women. They wanted to revitalize education, things like that. However, although it sounded good, but actually it was a communist movement, unfortunately. So the modernizers here were not democratic forces, but it was communist force, right? So maybe that is the reason, not maybe the reason, for sure. It was the reason why America decided, the US and allies that time, the West, decided to support the Mujahideen instead of the modernizers. So for me, it was interesting how the West somehow, because the West are traditionally against fundamentalism, and they're traditionally against fundamentalism and communism, right? They are against both of them. But when they had to choose at this particular civil war, the US and ally actually chose to go against communism. So for them, fundamentalism was the least of their concern, basically. So for now, it's really hard to imagine, right? Because now they try to fight all of this war on terror, things like that, right? Now, that time, Cold War against Russia was seen as the priority. So the West somehow helped the Mujahideen here totally close or totally turn a blind eye on the fundamentalism that time. So yes, after that they helped the Mujahideen for years and years and years, and then in 1988, 1988, Soviet pull out of Afghanistan. So they kind of give up. And also because Mikhail Gorbachev, which I really love, Mikhail Gorbachev decided that it was of no use to continue, and it was already it was already down on his mind about trying to open up Russia with the perestroika and all of this, right? Because it was 1988, so close to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So that time it was already down in his mind that he wanted to change Russia, Soviet Union. So he decided to let go of the Afghanistan. But after Russia pulled out of Afghanistan, the civil war did not end there. So obviously the Mujahideen was the winner in this case. So the communist forces were defeated, right? But even among Mujahideen themselves, they had civil war against each other. So now the Mujahideen had two types of factions. One who wanted to implement Sharia law in one go, like effective immediately tomorrow, something like that. Well, other factions want to do it gradually, so that people will not be too shocked or something, right? So let's just do it one at a time, this rule first, that rule first. And even with that difference, it was, I don't know why these people maybe could not talk to each other or something, have a discussion, but they just somehow ended up waging a war against each other. Even both of them agree to implement the same type of law, but the speed of implementing it was enough to incite another civil war. So that's how I could not wrap my head around it, how they was so easy to decide to wage on a war instead of having a discussion, or like have some kind of agreement or middle ground, something like that. So that's probably the biggest lesson I take from this book, is how, in my opinion, all of these things could have been avoided. Totally could have been avoided. And I don't know whether it's true, some culture is just, I don't know, maybe very inflexible in terms of um what is it called? Yeah. Changing their minds about something, things like that. Yeah. So that led me to conclude that some cultures just uh maybe see war as a way of life or something like that. Because they talk about what is it called? Yeah, tadi. Jihad. Yeah, the way of jihad is also um it's like a pride to do. Yeah. But the book is very touching, because in the diary of the journalist, he talked about how women actually work very hard in the field. Yeah. And then they obviously whenever they open their face, but whenever there's a stranger, they close it, right? Close their face. And they said women never spoke, never smiled, and behaved almost as if they did not exist. For me, I'm like, oh, they never never spoke, never smiled, and behaved almost as if they never exist. They did not exist. Only the young girls were less shy, darting here and there glances at us as we passed and giggling at one another. So for me, it showed how it's such a sad existence, in my opinion. And the description of the book is really good in terms of talking about the suffering they have to go through, like digging through the rubble of just looking for the photos of their family, because that's the only thing that can remind them of what they thought of. There was no money in the house, right? But the house was destroyed by the civil war, so they just dug through the rubble just to find the photos of the family as a consolation. Try to remind them of the past, the family who have passed away. So this is what I can say about the book, and what you like and don't like. What I like is the primary source, so almost like reading diaries and some explanation after that. Very personal. That's what I like. What I don't like is the writer is somehow, in my opinion, too afraid to talk about how the Civil War was actually a proxy war between the US and Russia, Soviet Union that time. So the book steered clear from trying to blame these superpowers, basically. So almost like it was natural for America to support Mujahideen. It was natural for Russia to support the communist government, things like that. But actually, in my opinion, it should have been explored how selfish it was. Yeah. So Russia and US should have left Afghanistan, deal with their own civil war. It could have lasted a lot faster. It could have ended a lot faster if there were no big powers involved in this supposed to be a small conflict. So a domestic conflict now became a very prolonged conflict with a bigger scale. So that's the book steer clear from analyzing those parts. I would like to rate this book 4 out of 5 because of what I said earlier, what I don't like. That's it.
Great, thank you, Sudhir. Is there any question from you, Dola, Rina, maybe?
Yes, I have a question. Oh, Rina wanted to ask. Rina can ask first.
No. I'm not asked, but I think I interested with that book. It brings a new knowledge about the life and at the Afghanistan. Yeah, I think that interesting book.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to mention one more interesting fact. That time the communist forces against the modernizers against traditionalists, right? It just happened that the traditionalists happen to be, a lot of them are religious leaders, and they have a lot of land, and they are local landlords and money lenders. So these traditionalists, this is self-interest. They have self-interest in this fight as a traditionalist because they were in opposition of the land reform brought by the communist modernizers. They did not want to lose their land, basically, because the new modernizers will introduce land reform which limit the ownership of land. So maximum, say, 10 hectares. So if you own more than 10 hectares, you have to give it away to other people. So they did not want that. So that's why they joined the Mujahideen, not for religious reason, pure for self-interest economic reason. So I think that's also another important part.
And the book is only 56 pages. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. It's only for middle
short.
school. It's middle school book. But I like the witness to history. I actually read a lot of witness to history because they use diaries of soldiers for many different countries. Yeah, diaries of soldiers, diaries of journalists is very interesting, in my opinion, this series.
Yeah, I have a question. So the Taliban was formed, I think it's about 1996 or something. So it was new by the time it took over Kabul into 2000 or something. Only like 4 years old, 4 to 5 years old. So and much newer compared to the Mujahideen. So my question is, what is it that make the Taliban won the civil war despite being new?
Well, actually, the book mentioned how Taliban among these Mujahideen is actually the most prominent, but did not mention why they were able to do it. Yeah. So let me open the part about Taliban. Just all of a sudden they were able to take over 4 big cities at the same time. This Taliban, this militia. So it was Hefs al-Islami. Wait, yeah. Which part of it? So I remember the book did not explain how come Taliban of all other 4 fighting forces under Mujahideen who tried to rule the country, Taliban was the winner did not explain it actually. However, only the book only said that they were able to control 4 big cities at the same time. So maybe it was the strategy. So the strategy, they controlled 4 big cities, conquer it at the same time, so that they became the winner of this civil war against Mujahideen. Yeah. But please continue with the next question while I'm looking for the page which one they talk about it.
Actually, before I ask the question, I will like to share opinion because Afghanistan is actually quite interesting topic to it. And to answer the question while Taliban could win over the Mujahideen, I have one topic that I read from my previous that I is because the Mujahideen is basically a tribalistic force. So it's like uh, it's kind of a tribalistic old traditional force, and it's so much corrupt and self-interest. So all the leader is driven by the self-interest of collecting the wealth and all. While Taliban is actually a grassroots movement. So that's why they can get very that's why Taliban can quickly turn over the situation and um, make all these old Mujahideen force get out of the big major cities is because Taliban is actually a grassroots movement, so they have nothing to lose. While all of these old Mujahideen force is like a very tribalistic, they are all driven by self-interest. So when the Taliban force attack them, they just try to safeguard all of the wealth, the money, their with their weapons and all their family. They make sure that all of them is secure. But that's why Taliban would remove all these mujahideen from the major cities. That's,
Oh,
that's
that's
all.
actually very interesting. Yes, yes. The book did
Also,
not mention about this though. Yeah.
yeah. And from that's also based on the book that I read earlier, it is said that Afghanistan is quite a paradoxical society. It is very united, but also very fragmented because it's a very homogeneous society. It's like 99.9% Muslim, so there is like no ethnicity concern there, but it is also very fragmented. And Taliban, I mean the Afghani, uh, there is often a saying in the in the Afghani people, there is only two things that can unite the Afghani people more than anything else. First is their faith to God. Second is their struggle against foreign invader. So we can see that whenever there is a foreign invader, all of the Afghanistan is very united. All of them fight alongside to one common enemy. All of the city was stopped, suddenly stopped, and they fight one common enemy. It is happened when they are invaded by the British, by the Soviet, and by the US. But after all of these foreign power get out of the land, it all becomes friendly again. So it's kind of paradoxical. And okay, now to my question. In the book, where the timeline is end?
That's interesting. It ended in the book is pretty outdated. Yeah. 2002.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically
Because
it ended after the peace. Yeah. So that's like I said earlier, the book focused on the ongoing civil war, basically. So this is the history of civil war. When the civil war in Afghanistan was perceived happened from 1978 until 2001, by the victory of the U.S. Allies, right? So the civil war is presumed to end there, and after the U.S. administered Afghanistan, there was no civil war. Okay, and then after U.S. pulled out, Taliban took over again. There's no significant resistance against Taliban as of now. Okay, so as of now, I think there's no ongoing civil war in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's the book, when it comes to talk about the history of Civil War, then it's true that it ended in 2001. So I think this is the correct timeline.
Yeah, because there are many more dynamics after that in Afghanistan, and we can, yeah, this how we can have a faith in the future of Afghanistan. Yeah. Is there any more questions? Rina, any? Or none? Okay, I think not. We can continue to the
I
next.
will just want to share. The next book I will read is also Witness to History, but next one is Venezuela.
Venezuela.
I'm also interested in.
Also 50 pages.
Yes,
Oh.
more or less the same because it's middle
The same
school
thing.
for middle school series.
Why Venezuela? Just curious. Why
No,
Venezuela?
I'm interested in country who until now has not solved their issues. Yeah, like I keep asking why. Is it that difficult? Something like that. So after Afghanistan is obviously one of them, right? Even famously, a lot of people, no one can save Afghanistan. Only Afghanistan can save Afghanistan. Russia has tried, US has tried. Who do you think you are? So I'm interested in countries who have not solved their issues.
So, I will listen about the book. The title is
Wait, sorry, Edo. Should we turn off our camera so we can hear you better? You're not. I think we should turn off our cam.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I don't like my host particularly. Okay, so the book that I will present is the title is Flash Crash, a trading seven, a global manhunt, and the most mysterious market crash in history. This book follows the story of one day trader named Nav Sarao. He lived in the suburb of London. He's, and the book sketches the story from the story of the commodity trading. So it also talk earlier about the history of the exchange of the market of the future and the future markets. And it culminates in the event of mysterious market crash that happened in 2010, where there is an abnormality in the market in that lasts only for 30 minutes, but causing too much financial loss on the market. So the story starts about the Nam Sarao, who started their trading career in the early 2000s. So they so uh, he is working for Fitex. Fitex is a kind of trading party that is owned by an old trader that previously trade in the so-called the pit. The pit is like the trading floor in the exchange, and it is so popular in the 80s and the 90s before the electronic trade become much more common. This person, the Nataro, is accumulating his wealth during this period, doing the day trading on future market of US S&P 500. So it is a commodity that affects the value of major US stock that is publicly traded. And in around the middle of the 2000s, there is the so-called high frequency trading become common. This is uh, where a firm that have uh, a big capital invest in technology to get access to market information as fast as possible and employ uh, so many mathematical segments that, that create a program for them that somehow can give advantage to them when they do a trading in the financial market. Then this Napsaro notice the newcomer in the market and how it it how it turns the market situation into something that is become so unfair to all the old trader, because now with the automatic trading that is done by this high frequency trading, they can manipulate the market and make the price become unfair, and the free free market is no longer applicable in the financial market. And it all led to a very tragic event where where the weakness of this automatic system become exploited. It can cause a financial market crash. And this is what happened in the 2010. And the key takeaway from this book is our whole the global financial market is built on a very fragile situation, because with this player become prominent, this high frequency trading or algorithmic trading become prominent, many abnormality can happen in the market itself that cause a lot of negative impacts to our economy in general. And the key takeaway is that all this is done by the people that take advantage of this. They make a lot of profit, but they don't actually uh, contribute to the economy, because this high frequency trading is not really producing any goods and not also any service. So it's not contributing to the GDP of any nation in Israel, but they get a lot of profit. And this is exploited by this firm with big capital to steal the money from the general public. And all of this fragile system can lead to a financial crash where the victim is the general population, the loss of employment, the drop in the purchasing power, the failure of the banking system, the severe cut in the public sector, the result of the market crash. It's all impact negatively to the general population that's not profiting from this activity of financial trading. So then the question is of how to regulate this financial transaction. But in actual, it's all the party that is responsible for all this regulation is the exchange itself. But the action itself see the market participant more as valuable customers rather than regulated entities. So it is often to their own, they philosophically think that anything that is profiting the market participant, they should be agreeing about it. So some of the regulation that is made by the parliamentary, even sometimes just go uh, go out of their way. So it's never really strictly there to this regulation, the mark of this market participant. And it's all now become more complex because all this trading happening anonymously. So when there is a market crash as a result from all of this activity, it is not an easy task to see who is responsible to whom, because now we are talking about trading activity that can no longer cease by the eyes. So monitoring and also auditing the situation in the market is no longer a feasible things. So when there is a market crash happening, of course there will be something that profiting out of it. There is somebody somewhere that is profiting from all of this market crash, and we can never see who behind all of this. And this is the current situation is in our financial market. What I like and I learned about this book, what I like is that it gives a very broad insight on the financial market situation. But and this book is only 200 pages, so it's not that thick. And it's so easy to read. And the compromise to it is that it's not go deep into some of the topics. So it is so third resort is needed for when you want to get more comprehension about the topics in this book. How would I rate the book? Based on all of this takeaway and what I like it done, I would say I would take this book 4 out of 5. Okay. Now we can come to the Q&A.
Question.
Yes, sure. Good.
So, how did he actually? Is he really responsible for the market crash, or is he just a myth? And was he actually punished for it?
Okay. He actually charged by charged for market manipulation during this crash. While in actual, it is like finding the black gold, like finding who is responsible. While the root cause of the problem is so complex because all of this algorithmic trading that is happening in the market, it is not easy to track who is responsible to what. And uh, in this event, in this manhunt, it is uh, it is charged to this guy, this day trading as one of the market manipulator, while he himself believed that he is actually fighting against this high frequency trader. So he's fighting all this algorithmic trading with his own way because he thinks that once this algorithmic trading coming into the market, they eat away the profit that initially taken by all of these day trader that do the trading manually. So he himself believed that he's actually fighting this high frequency trader with his own way, but then the regulator charged him as the market manipulator.
Which one do you think he is?
It's a kind of Robin Hood story for me.
Yes, but which one do you think? Do you think it's his right to claim that he's, the Robin Hood against all of these high frequency traders, or which one do you think?
I myself do not see highly people that is that that spend their effort, their mental effort to financial market because like the first question is all of these people, so they make a lot of profit, they do not really contribute to the economy.
Yeah, but this guy wants to fight them and create a terror in their life. Is that good then?
In the sense of in the tight sense of the trading community, maybe if I'm a trader, I will see this person as a hero. But for the general population, I will see that he is an irrelevant person actually.
Sorry, Edo, I could not hear you just now. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. If you see from the perspective of a trader, for example, if I'm a trader myself, a day trader myself, I would see that this person is a hero. But as a general population, I would see that he is irrelevant to me, and all of the people participating on this uh, unfair financial trading is actually perpetrating the problem further because there are many things that is inside that is happening in this financial trading. There are sovereign wealth, there are educational way, there are pensions of people that is at stake in this financial market. So any of those people that try to take benefit of all of this unfair practice in the financial market is perpetrating the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question for you too. Could you explain in simple terms how the crash happens? I mean, what happened between these two sides, the HFT, high frequency trader, and this party? So what happened between them until the market crash?
Okay, so there is so-called thing in the financial transaction called spoofing. So spoofing is when you pretend to be other thing when you actually want other thing. For example, when you want to actually buy some commodity, you pretend that you want to sell it. So it will drag other people to sell more, then making the price of that commodity become lower, lower, and lower. And at the right price, you will buy the commodity. So this so-called spoofing technique is what is exploited by this high frequency trader. So uh, behind this behind this automatic trading is to try to make other people think that you think other way. So then you exploit the situation. This kind of situation happened in the 1987, and it caused also a market crash. But during that time, it happened throughout a whole day. So and in the aftermath, it is told that the reason the crash happened is because the broker stopped answering to the telephone from the client asking to sell their stock or their price so they can contain the loss. Then it happened the crash. But during this in the 2010, the crash happened because the participant is a robot. It's a high frequency people that take action without thinking of for a second. So all of this become like uh, like a snowballing effect. When all this decision for buying and selling all this financial instrument is done by the robot itself, the market can be manipulated, make this algorithm to think that they have to do this way or that way. This cause the market to happen in like 30 minutes. So
So it's like making fake demand, something like that, fake purchase order, put some purchase in certain price to give the impression that you are selling something or purchasing
yes,
something.
that's the situation. So the strategy is like they put a bid, and once there is somebody who want to answer to that bid, they cancel all their order and they make another. So in the data that is seen by all these robots is like there is a high demand, but actually there is no demand. So all become a snowballing effect.
Yeah, from those explanation, it does seem like market manipulation. So looks
Yes.
like this person tried to put some fake bids to fool the algorithms
Yes.
in this way, and then all the algorithms got fooled. So that sounds like market manipulation to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Now we get it. I actually don't understand this financial market myself. It started good, right? Like people don't have enough money to start a business. That's why they draw investors, and then that's how the stock market is born. Because anyone can invest even when you don't know the person who's about to establish a business. But for some reason, after 100 years of financial market, it evolved into a weird thing. It's like a detached economy from the real one. So yeah, I don't understand it myself.
Yeah, it's kind of like a zero-sum game. So it's like people taking from another people while not actually producing anything more. And the situation is now because many of our investment, like our attention, is now put in all these financial markets. So all of the things at stake. That's why it's all interconnected. The profit and loss that is input to this trader, while the profit itself is not directly felt by the general population, but there is problem occur, like the market crash or something that is responsible directly by all of these trader participants, it's all felt by the general population. Like all of the financial crash that happened in the history, and it could happen again in the future.
Well, in my opinion, the public really do not know about this, because now whenever there's a certain accumulated wealth exists, like pension money, anything of some sort of a pool of money is available, the financial advisors always suggest them to invest it in financial market. It's like they cannot stand seeing this money nganggur as it is. They always want to gain profit from it, even more than before. So that's why until now, people still don't understand when the Jiwasraya case, the bankruptcy of Jiwasraya with trillion of rupiah, the government just explained it as a corruption case, basically. But it was essentially a market failure. So they invested the money of the people actually in bad options in stock market. So they lost a lot of money because of it. But the government could not explain it to the public, like how. So they just simply call it corruption. But it was essentially it was bad decision in terms of financial market. So they invested in wrong financial instrument or something. And after a few years, the value dropped. So that's how they lost the money. So they just call it with a blanket term of corruption. So happens to that insurance from the the military insurance. If you remember, I don't know the name. I forgot the something.
Asabri.
Asabri, yes, I know this is the same thing. So they invested the accumulated wealth to wrong or the bad choices, basically. And the value dropped after a few years. Now they could not recoup what they lost. And then they just call it corruption. So many cases, even in Pertamina, when they chose to invest in the wrong money instrument, they also call it corruption. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently reading a 500 pages book on financial history. Maybe we'll share it next month or next 2 months.
Wow.
Starting the Sumerian and then Athena and then the Romans up to today. But it's a long book.
Wow. Can't
I'm
wait.
thinking about my next book. But let's see. I think I will reread some of my book that I read a few years past, because there is some different things that I love to read.
The luxury of rereading a book. Like how much time do you guys allocate reading every day?
And myself, not much. I read around 10 to 20 books a year.
No, every day. Do you read
Or every
every
day.
day or every?
Every day at most is like during a weekday, maybe I can 30 minutes to 1 hour. In weekend, I could have up to 2 hours, but also in weekday, not every day I could spend time reading, but in weekend, at least 1 or 2 hours. I can spend time reading.
Oh, so fun. Yeah. Well, Donald is probably longer.
No, not really. I don't read every day. So
Oh.
sometimes I don't get to read books, but sometimes I do. So there is no fixed schedule with it. It
Okay.
depends. It depends on the book. The book should be fascinating. Unfortunately, I'm fascinated by many books.
So you cannot stop, yeah. Okay. Okay, so should we take photo?
Yeah, we can take over.
Okay.
We can finish early, I think, today.
Yes. Who will take me? Yeah. Rina, do you want to show your face? Wait, let me my camera kok ada garisnya ya? Alah, oke lah. Oke, hai Rina. 1, 2, 3. Oke, dan
Thank you, Rina, for coming.
Thank you for sharing.
Back to itu.
Okay, we start way now. So next meeting will be on
Second Saturday, I haven't.
November 16th. 16 or 9?
December 9.
November 9. Okay.
yes, 9
So,
series.
so still 1 p.m., right? Keep it.